Greetings, gents, and welcome to the first episode of my new podcast, Econoclasm. I know how much everyone loves to be subjected to my insane ramblings, wherever you get them, so I figured why not give you all the opportunity to get them in your free time as well. Since this is the first episode, it's just going to be a basic introduction to what the podcast is going to be like. If you don't really care about just that basic general overview and want to get more into the substance to see if you're actually going to enjoy it, or there's any particular thing you want to look at, I will be dropping this with a few other episodes, so you could just go watch or listen to one of those. We're going to be doing one on the Hail Mary, one on Rothbard's quote, "We are not anarchist," a famous quote used against a lot of right-wing anarchists, so I look at that. And then one about the Democrats arguing that they are defending democracy in this election cycle. So you can go look at one of those episodes if you prefer rather than this. But as for the introductory episode, we'll get started. First, I want to go into the name of the podcast, Econoclasm. I have to thank my college roommate Johnny Christmas for the idea. He originally gave me Econoclast, but there's a magazine with that name and I didn't want to take it and cause any problems or limit potential exposure, so I just changed it to Econoclasm, which, to explain that, it obviously comes from the term iconoclasm, which is, the act of destroying certain religious images, or a bit more broadly, rejecting cherished beliefs and institutions, or established values and practices. Now, obviously, this leans more towards the latter than the former, since I am Catholic and I do support the existence of icons, statues, images. I don't actually believe in destroying them, so a bit of irony there in the name. So we're going more with the cherished beliefs and institutions, values and practices, kind of rejecting those because a lot of outside of my religious beliefs, a lot of my beliefs do kind of reject what is commonly held in various aspects: politics, economics, history, current events, and obviously it's econoclasm, not iconoclasm, based off of my deep interest in economics. I have a degree in economics. I love economics, and so that's where the little change of the I to the E comes in, and how you get iconoclasm. So again, thank you, Johnny. As for what will be covered on the podcast, kind of already alluded to it, broad spectrum: politics, economics, religion, history, current events, whatever I feel like doing, or that might be a relevant subject to cover based on something that's going on, or if there's this particular news event that I want to cover, obviously I'll go into that. I don't want to, avoid what's going on in the world, because I can still get what I want to say out with looking at those situations as they come. Obviously, we have a election coming up, pretty contentious one, with potential fallout given how the political situation the country has been for the past decade or so. So even though I have probably at least 100 ideas of episodes right now, I'm not going to stick to going through those first and then go from there. Obviously, if something comes up, I'll cover it as it comes. And I do intend to do one episode a week, at least minimum. Like I said, with whatever news items may come up, I don't want to say wait several days to cover it. If it's obviously certain things will be something I'd want to talk about right away. So I might probably release an episode the day it happens or the day after. And if I do that, I'll probably release multiple episodes that week because I want to do episodes on a consistent schedule. I'll talk more about that later, but that's just kind of what I'm looking for subject-wise. It could be any number of them, or even combining them. There's a lot of ideas I have that kind of touch on both politics and religion and how they interact with each other. It's one of another main area I want to focus on is the crossover between my ideas of anarcho-capitalism and my faith as a Catholic. Obviously, a lot of people say you can't be both. I disagree. You have ANCAPs and libertarians, anarchists who will say, well, you can't be Catholic, you can't be Christian, because you're, going against freedom by having these rules. And there'll be Catholics and Christians saying, oh, you can't be libertarian or anarchist because you have to obey someone other than God. But so I'll touch on that throughout as comes up. I'll have, like I said, a number of episode ideas that touches on both and just explore it. It's not going to be I'm going to have the definitive answer, yes, you can be both. Here's an episode proving it. Anything else is wrong. Obviously, it's a big area of disagreement between me and a lot of people who share one of my beliefs, but you'll see that as we go along. Now, as for planned episodes, you could see, like I said, I have those 3 coming up. The Hail Mary, the Rothbard, "We are not anarchist" quote, and the ones about Democrats fighting for democracy in this election. But there's obviously, like I said, I have 100 or so ideas already. So there's ones I want to kind of look at sooner, so you can expect these to come out in the near future. Some of these might get pushed back with various things, but just some ideas is, look at the Russia-Ukraine conflict, some things that people, just kind of explaining things that might not be as well known to the general populace. I'm not saying I have information that no one else has, but just ideas from various sources that I know people who will likely be listening, at least early on, may not have the full view of the conflict or various information. Another episode, accelerationism. What is accelerationism? How should people view it? How should, politically, religiously, how do you look at it? The idea of what is anarchism. It's not just chaos where everything's burning and there's riots and looting. We'll get into that. I do touch on that a little bit in the Rothbard episode, but we have a whole episode expanding on exactly what that is. Then another episode on the idea that I hear a lot, that libertarians have to be okay with anything they don't want to be illegal. There's an idea of, oh, you don't want it to be illegal, so you can't have any problem with it whatsoever. They think that if we don't want people arrested for it, that we encourage it, we like it, we want it to happen. So, an idea of just addressing that. The idea of what is a corporation, because that's thrown a lot against anarcho-capitalism. Oh, corporations will just take over everything. But it fails to understand what a corporation actually is, so I want to explain what exactly a corporation is and why, a society that runs on anarcho-capitalism isn't just going to be overrun by corporations. Another thing is consumerism is, again, lobbied against anarcho-capitalism and libertarianism, but consumerism is more an idea of Keynesianism and not capitalism. So explore that. The idea that money is no evil, the common idea that money is the root of all evil. I remember I had a friend in college who heard me and one of our fraternity brothers talking about that, the quote in the story from Atlas Shrugged, where Francisco D'Antonio has his famous "money is no evil" speech. And this other friend goes, oh, you know who said money is the root of all evil? Well, that was Jesus. And it's like, well, the actual quote from the Bible is, the love of money is the root of all evil. And secondly, that quote's not even from Jesus, it's from the book of Timothy, so clearly Christians might need a little bit of help there, and people just in general need to see money for what it is, just as a medium of exchange. Then an episode on the Civil War, people like to look at it as a very black and white issue, no pun intended, but either the North were obviously the good guys and they did everything right, or the South were obviously the good guys and they did everything right. Like with most things, especially war, the area is a lot more gray, and really neither side was good or in the right. And obviously in the United States, if you live in one area or the other, you're kind of taught that your side was the objectively good side who only did good. And a lot of the history they teach about is just kind of pushed through the lens of whichever area you live in. So people probably won't like it because it's like, hey, you both suck. But, the truth is what the truth is, and I'll go into that. And I have an idea for a potential series of episodes. It probably wouldn't be like the weekly episode, just because it would take up almost an entire year. And I don't want to marry myself to those, and only those, for a year. But go through each U.S. presidency and examine what each man did as president, and at the end rank them all from best to worst, however that will go. Probably just one episode on each president, and then one final episode where I just rank them all out based off what I've said in the series. That would probably be a companion series where I have the normal episode that comes out weekly, and then that one would probably be another episode each week for the duration of the series. And then, of course, as news events come up. So it's a potential that if I do that, I could get as many as 3 episodes a week, but we'll see. Now, as for the format, it's basically just going to be lists, me talking the whole time. Sorry, I hate the sound of my voice too. So, I'm right there with you, but I'm shooting for about around half an hour an episode. I know with those 3 episodes that I've actually already recorded, 2 of them are just under half an hour long, but then one's 45 minutes. I don't want it to be too rigid where it's like, oh, I'm only going to do half an hour. I'm going to do each episode as I think it needs to be. If I can get the information out concisely, it will be less. If I need to say more on the subject, it will be more, longer. So it will obviously change from episode to episode and whatever the subject is, but I want to try to keep it around half an hour. So like when I'm looking at episode ideas, I'll try to plan it for about half an hour. If it might, if that one episode went 45 minutes, but if something's looking like it could be an hour, I might break it up into a two-parter or something. Obviously, like I said, with that one president series, I could do it in one episode, but it would be probably at least 12 hours. I don't want to sit here for 12 hours and talk straight, even if I take breaks and edit it all together. I don't think anyone wants to listen to a whole 12-hour episode. But that's what I'm looking at. Like I said, try to shoot for one episode a week at least. The weekly episode that comes out on schedule. Probably on Fridays. So I'm pretty sure I'm dropping this on a Friday. Like the podcast comes out on a Friday, so I'm probably going to try to have a new release every Friday. In terms of when on Friday, that I'm not too sure of. Probably more in the evening, like 7, 8 p.m., but we'll see what seems to work and everything. But then you'll have episodes that, as events come up, they'll come out whenever. So that way, I don't want like the news cycle to pass by if an event happens. Obviously, with like, say, the assassination attempt against Trump, if I had the podcast back then, I wouldn't have, because I think what was that? Was that a Sunday? I think it was. And like, I obviously wouldn't want to wait till Friday to talk about it. Maybe like a day for like details to come out and everything, but don't want to wait 6 days and it's like, oh, everyone's already said everything. I'm just adding in my voice to the noise that will get lost. But as for, like I said, what will be covered, just so anyone who doesn't exactly know, so they can get an idea of what I'll be, kind of like where I'm coming from, what lens I'll be looking at things at. I am Roman Catholic, so I'll be coming from Catholic viewpoint. I am an anarcho-capitalist. Anarcho, no government, capitalism, free markets. For economics, I'm not an economist, but as far as I can say, I'm part of the school. I'm part of the Austrian School of Economics. The idea that people are individuals who act of their own free will. They're not numbers and equations, and we don't act as one uniform entity. The idea of examining things as reality, not just mathematical equations. I'm not trying to get into the differences in schools right now, but that's my economics school. There's not really anything I can say about history. Where I come from, I don't have a specific bend to history, aside from the truth. Whatever I see the truth as, that's what I'll say. I'm not going to try and force anything through any of those lenses. I'm not going to try and say, oh, well, I have to talk about this historical subject in the way to make Catholics look good, or to make anarcho-capitalism look right, or to back up Austrian economics. Whatever the truth is for history, I'm going to cover it. That's what it's going to be. And the news, again, just whatever the truth is. So that'll basically be it for this episode. Like I said, just quick introduction. That's what the podcast is going to be about. That's what it's going to look like. I encourage you to go look at those other episodes. See if you like them, if you want to keep listening. Be subjected to the torture that is my voice and my constant spewing of my ideas that I know people love so much. But thanks for listening. We'll see where this goes. So, until next time.